When two hikers stumbled upon a shallow grave in the Florida swamps, they didn't just uncover bones. They unearthed a secret this town had buried for 30 years. They were just two sisters walking home in 1985. 32 years later, the man who helped search for them turned out to be the one who buried them. A cold case, a storm, and a discovery that shattered a small Florida town. This is the story of the Lowell Sisters and the truth that refused to stay buried. Before diving deeper into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest cases. The morning the bones surfaced, Cypress Hollow woke up to ghosts. It was late August. Thick heat clung to the pines, the kind that made even silence sweat. Sheriff's Deputy Laura Benton stood in the overgrown edge of Rattlesnake Creek, staring down at a patch of disturbed earth. Two hikers had called it in at dawn. They'd seen something white jutting from the soil. The ground looked wrong, sunk in, like it had been breathing quietly for years. When the forensic team brushed away the dirt, two small skulls appeared side by side. Benton didn't have to see the dental records. She whispered the names under her breath before anyone said them aloud. April and Samantha Lowell, the missing sisters of Cypress Hollow, gone since 1985. Cypress Hollow was a one-stoplight town on the edge of nowhere, just cypress swamps, an old citrus grove that had long gone sour, and a diner that smelled perpetually of coffee and fried catfish. In 1985, it wasn't much different than 100 other forgotten Florida towns. Folks left their doors unlocked. Kids rode bikes until the cicadas started up. The Lowells fit neatly into that world. A working-class family with 3 children and a father who worked the night shift at the paper mill. April was 15. Tall and whip-smart with dark blonde hair, she never brushed enough. Her little sister Samantha was 12, quiet, bookish, the kind of girl who named stray cats and collected seashells, even though the nearest beach was 60 miles away. They vanished on a Thursday evening in June. That day had been ordinary enough. Their mother, Patricia, remembered them leaving the house around 6 p.m. to walk to the corner store for sodas. They never came back. By 9, Patricia was pacing the front porch, calling their names into the humid dark. By midnight, Sheriff Ray Dillard had half the town out searching. They were just gone, he said later, like the earth swallowed them whole. Over the next 72 hours, Cypress Hollow turned into a hive of flashlights and whispers. Volunteers combed the creek bed, the orange grove, and the abandoned drive-in off Highway 90. Bloodhounds traced the girl's scent as far as the old bridge, but there it stopped. Abruptly, as if they'd stepped off the face of the earth, a convenience store clerk said he saw them buy Cokes around 6:15. Another witness swore they'd been seen talking to a man in a green pickup truck not long after. But that lead fizzled. The town had more green pickups than churchgoers. By Sunday morning, news crews had arrived from Tallahassee. The Lowells' faces stared out from missing posters taped to gas pumps and telephone poles. A $5,000 reward was offered. It didn't bring the girls home. In a town like Cypress Hollow, secrets stick to the air thicker than humidity. The first suspect was the girl's uncle, Earl Lowell, a handyman with a drinking problem and a reputation for trouble. He'd helped search, which some said was suspicious in itself. Deputies questioned him twice, but Earl had an alibi. He'd been at the VFW bar all night, and half the patrons vouched for him. Still, gossip followed him like a shadow. Then came whispers about Mr. Perry, the shop teacher at the high school. He'd been seen talking to April weeks before she disappeared. Friendly, too friendly, one student told investigators. Perry denied everything. No evidence ever tied him to the case, but his career ended all the same. And then there was the drifter, the one no one knew by name. He'd been seen camping near Rattlesnake Creek that summer. A trucker claimed he gave him a ride north a week later. Dillard's deputies followed that lead all the way to Georgia, but by then the trail was cold. After 6 months, the flyers curled up in the sun and fell apart. By the following summer, no one talked about the Lowell girls unless whiskey loosened their tongues. Patricia Lowell moved to Gainesville in '87, taking her youngest child with her. Her husband, Hank, stayed behind. He said he needed to be where they were last seen. He spent his nights sitting on the porch, staring at the road, waiting for 2 silhouettes that never came walking home. The case file grew thick and yellow with time. Witnesses moved away. Sheriff Dillard retired in 1993, handing the Unsolved binder to his successor with a sigh. "You'll never close this one," he said. Too many years, too many ghosts. In the 1990s, the state sent a cold case investigator once every few years, usually after a new piece of technology made headlines: DNA testing, fiber analysis, computerized composite sketches, but nothing panned out. The evidence box for the Lowell case was thin. A few articles of clothing, a half-empty soda can, and a strand of blonde hair that couldn't be matched to anyone at the time. Even so, Benton, who was a rookie deputy in 2001, never stopped thinking about the sisters. "Everyone else treated it like a story," she said later. "But I kept wondering who was still out there living normal, knowing what they'd done." By then, Rattlesnake Creek had become a local ghost story. Teenagers dared each other to camp there. Some claimed they could hear giggling in the trees. Most adults just avoided the area altogether. Then, in the summer of 2017, a tropical storm washed out part of the old logging road and unearthed something white. The hikers who found the bones thought they'd stumbled on animal remains. But when Benton arrived, she saw it immediately: small, delicate, and unmistakably human. The remains were intertwined, almost as if one had been holding the other. Within hours, the sheriff's office sealed off the area. The forensic anthropologists worked under tents as rain threatened overhead. When they confirmed there were 2 sets of remains, Benton closed her eyes. She already knew whose ghosts they'd found, inside the shallow grave. Investigators also discovered a few personal effects: a rusted bracelet with the name Sammy, a hair clip shaped like a seashell, and the remnants of denim fabric. DNA testing would later confirm what the town had always feared. These were the Lowell sisters, but the question that had haunted Cypress Hollow for 32 years was finally new again. Who put them there? The discovery hit like a hurricane through still water. Local news ran the story non-stop. National outlets picked it up within days. Cold case break in missing sisters mystery ran across the Tampa Bay Tribune. People who hadn't spoken in decades suddenly remembered details, some true, some warped by time. A waitress recalled seeing the girls hitchhiking that evening, though she'd never mentioned it before. A retired deputy said there'd been a missing evidence bag from the 1985 file. Theories multiplied like mosquitoes in summer. Benton, now leading the cold case unit, reopened every page of the original investigation. She noticed things others had missed. A note about tire tracks near the creek that didn't match any registered vehicle in town. A witness statement from a local pastor that had been filed but never followed up on. And a photograph of a man standing near the search line, a volunteer no one could identify. That man became her obsession. The picture was blurry, taken by a local reporter during the original search. In the corner of the frame, a man stood apart from the crowd, tall, lean, wearing a faded baseball cap. His face was turned slightly away, but Benton noticed his hands. They were covered in what looked like mud, or something darker. She pulled every archived image from that week, scanning for the same face. There he was again, near the old bridge, helping carry boxes for the search team. In another, standing behind Patricia Lowell, watching her cry, "Who is that?" Benton asked aloud in the quiet of the evidence room. No one had an answer. "Excellent. Here continues your story." For decades, Cypress Hollow lived in a kind of uneasy silence. The Lowell Sisters became fewer people and more legend, a shorthand for tragedy. When newcomers asked, someone would gesture toward Rattlesnake Creek and say quietly, "That's where they found them." The town had grown older, slower. The old paper mill closed in '94. The citrus grove turned into a tangle of weeds. Yet the memory of those missing girls lingered in every porch conversation. Every parent's warning to their children not to walk alone after dark. But for Detective Laura Benton, the case was never a ghost story. It was unfinished business. By 2017, Benton had worked her way up to lead investigator in the county's small but determined cold case unit. She was methodical, known for her quiet intensity. Where others saw old paper and dead ends, she saw patterns. When the Lowell Sisters' remains were unearthed that stormy summer, Benton took it personally. She wasn't from Cypress Hollow originally. She'd moved there in her 20s, but she'd grown attached to its stillness, its stubbornness. It felt like the kind of place where truth should matter. After 30 years, she said in a later interview, "You'd think people forget. But I found that they remember everything, just not always the same way." She reopened the case with the precision of someone dissecting a wound. Benton started with what she called the last known window, the 2 hours between 6 and 8 p.m. on June 13th, 1985, 6 p.m. The sisters leave home for the corner store.